This is the final word, and very pleased to have on the other end of the interview today West Indies all-rounder Jason Holder, someone we've watched with a lot of interest and a lot of enjoyment for more years now I mean, it seems like a surprisingly long time. You seem to have been a part of the landscape for a long period of time. Hello, Jason. First of all, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, man? Thanks for having me. Yeah, been around now for a couple of years now. Still feel pretty young, but well, mentally I feel pretty young. Physically, the
Mm-hmm.
body's another thing, but I guess that's all part and parcel of professional sport. But yeah, happy to be on the show.
It's interesting, like where we find you at the moment. You're now a very senior player in a team where not everybody's young, but a lot of the players are inexperienced. You're in England. We're talking to you after the second test, just before the third one starts. That second test where West Indies were in the game for long periods of that test match, and then had it slip away in a short period of time late on that fourth day. How does that sit with you? Where you are with this group, you're an experienced player. You've got a lot of inexperienced players that you need to try to help bring through onto the stage of Test cricket, which is such a difficult place to perform.
My role within the group is just really to obviously contribute on the field, but I think if you're looking at the longevity of West Indies cricket and particularly this cohort of players, it's such a young group where I think development is very, very key. And the only way these players can learn is through experiences. But I think you can almost try to nurture them or help them in the direction that you want or you think they should be going in by giving them any pieces of advice you can give them, helping them to make them better cricketers and make them better cricketers on the job. I think structurally, unfortunately, we are just not there as a region or as an entity. And it's a matter for us to, over a period of time, get better in terms of our structures and get better in terms of our tactical, well, mental, tactical, and also like physical attributes when it comes to playing this professional sport. For me, my role is just continue to be a leader within the group, and that is on and off the park, and just contribute positively in any way possible. I try to reiterate to Craig, especially, anything he needs from me in terms of what driving a message or whatever it may be. I'm just that guy for him to turn to, and he can feel confident turning to me for anything when it comes to this group. So I think that's as much as I would say basically in terms of how I see my role within this team.
When you're talking about structures, is that in terms of the like domestic cricket in the Caribbean, the setup of how cricket works in that region in general?
Yes, exactly. I think when you look at our system, we've got six franchises and we've contracted 15 players in each franchise. Then we also have our obviously our domestic season, which is spread out, I guess, throughout the three formats which we have. But I think even outside of the actual competitive cricket, when you look at each franchise structurally, I think is a case where it is a positive to have them, but so much more can be done, for the franchises to aid the development of West Indies cricket. And then when you look at a hub for West Indies cricket, we're still trying to roll that out and trying to get the facility up in Coolidge and Antigua up to that standard where you can really come in and really work on your skills. You have the necessary coaching, and then you also have the necessary equipment, to enable guys to progress at a rapid rate. And I think if we get more juniors going into setups like that, and then obviously having maybe a mid tier of our middle aged tier of players to continue that development from that junior phase. I think we lose so many
Mm.
cricketers from junior cricket in transitioning into senior cricket, and we need to kind of like plug that gap between, let's say, between 17 and 25, and to really have a strong structure at that level to enable more development or losing less players. Because again, you may not have out of the 15 cricketers in each territory, all 15 may not play for West Indies.
Mm.
But in order to have a strong West Indies team, you need those 15 players in each territory to be up to have a level of standard that would enhance the cricket, challenge our players when it comes to the competitive games, and make the overall product stronger.
When you're losing those players, that talent drain, is that losing players to other sports, or is it losing players who just give up playing the game because they don't see a future in it? Or like, what do you think is behind that loss?
When I say losing players, is losing players due to the fact that players may not see it as a strong enough financial earning
Mm.
to sustain themselves for life after cricket or life in general. So when you look at 15 players in each territory, and territories consist of thousands of cricketers, there are only 15 slots, and then outside of that, you have to then fend for yourself throughout the year. Now, if you're a professional athlete and you're giving that 100% of your time, then if you're not on contract, which at the regional level, when you look at the grand scheme of things, isn't like a huge sum of money, you then still have to look at means to sustain yourself. And I think that's where we lose so many players, because players get to that point where like, you're obviously transitioning from a young man into an adult, and then
Mm.
you're looking to obviously do adult things in terms of developing yourself and then living as an adult as well. So when you wear all that up, some players go to school, some players have other jobs outside of actually playing cricket full time. And when you really look at the scope of world cricket now, cricket is a job. It
Mm.
takes it takes a lot of time out of one particular day. If you're gonna give it your all, then you got to be training, you got to be practicing. Your aim is to work harder than your peers, and just being able to put that time and effort in order to reap the results that you're looking for when it comes to the international game. At present, I'm not sure the model that we have can basically do that over a long period of time, whereas we could keep a larger pool of players interested for the aid and development of West Indies cricket.
It's interesting with you because you were captain at such a young age. You were 23 when you captained the one day side. You were test captain not long after that. Where was the point where you felt like you knew that you were going to be a professional cricketer? Like, was there a point where you might have given it away and done something else, or at what stage did it seem clear that you had to follow this path?
So again, I think I consider myself one of the more fortunate cricketers where I have been through the whole system. I started at under 13 level in the region, and I went straight through the system where I went under 13, 15, 17, 19,
Mm.
and I played West Indies A, transitioned into the Barbados senior team, transitioned to West Indies senior team. And for me, I consider myself fortunate because I would have made all of those age group teams at a relatively young age. So I had
Mm.
multiple years at one particular age group. If I look at my career, I started my career at 21 years old. My international career that is at 21 years old. And from 21 years old till now, I'm 32. I haven't been left out. So I've been in and around international cricket for that length of time. So
Mm.
for me, when I look at my overall earnings as a professional athlete, I can say I've got a decent foundation in comparison to somebody else who may have came in a lot later.
Right.
Now again, if I had to flip it around where I came into international cricket later, then maybe I might look to shape my game in a different way to
Mm.
maximize my earnings, as we only have a short earning window. But
Right.
because I was able to start that early, again, I could give myself adequate enough time in international cricket, and then still at 32 years old, sorry, relatively young, still within the game, still have quite a few more years left of me. I can now
Right.
start to branch out a little bit more in terms of taking a few more options to play a few more
Mm-hmm.
leagues outside of international cricket. But again, everybody's not blessed with that same situation, and it's a matter for us to try to find ways to keep players interested for long enough as opposed to losing them to leagues. I think that's a dilemma that everybody's not faced with. I see certainly faced with it where even at our territorial level, there are a number of players who go away to the US, for example, to play in the
Mm.
minor leagues and earn decent cash for doing it. So yeah, that's kind of where the scope is at the moment for players in the Caribbean.
Right. I mean, we spend a lot of time on this show and other programs talking about this trajectory for cricket, where it's going to go, how the different structures might work, what the T20 influence will be. Are you someone who sees that that's the path it's likely to be, as that international cricket gets more and more reduced as the leagues become a stronger part of the landscape, or do you think that's sort of overhyped, the anxiety about that? What's your view on it?
I think we're treading on a slippery slope, and it's just down to the fact of the demands of the leagues in terms of how many leagues there are and players having so many different options.
Mm.
Again, like it's not of yesteryear where players were only pigeonholed to international cricket. There are just so many options, and right now I think even a dilemma for IPL cricket, for example's sake, is where You've got multiple leagues in a year, and players can easily or safely say, "Well, I don't have to go to IPL. I can still
Mhm.
make a decent living around the world, not playing IPL cricket because there's so many different leagues." So it's so important now for I think boards to really understand how to open up that communication lines between
Mhm.
them and the players to make sure that players are, given leeway, but then players are also understanding, well, look, we need to prioritize international cricket still because this is where the buck stops in terms of the starting point. Nobody
Mhm.
really branches off into the franchises world unless they've been established on the international circuit. So there must be a balance struck. And I think is really important for the ICC to understand that outside of the big three, there are a lot number of other territories who need more financial support in order to
Mhm.
grow their game. And I think with the advent now of so many associate nations playing in the World Cups, for example, and competing,
Yep.
give you a really good understanding as if they did have more financial support to put the relative development structures in place, they could be also forces to reckon with and making the overall product, a lot more attractive.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a complicated landscape and so many things moving around. So, someone like you coming through in Barbados, and I spent some time out there during the T20 World Cup recently. It seems it's so easy to take it for granted to say, "Oh, here's Barbados. It's a conveyor belt of cricket talent. There are so many great cricketers who've come out of that part of the world, but there's no guarantee that that will continue depending how forces move in the game." Why do you think Barbados has been such a successful producer of great cricketers?
Again, when you look at Barbados, the Barbados Cricket Association, for example, in comparison to the number of territories around the region, they have been in a stronger financial position than most. And
Mm.
we are also a very small island. We play cricket. Our cricket starts in May and runs down to December. So we practically play cricket year round. And then we've also got pretty decent junior structures as well too. It used to be a lot stronger. We have club junior tournaments as well, which is I don't think as prevalent as is. So it's not that prevalent within the region as in
Mm.
comparison to what we have in Barbados. So again, Barbados is probably in a stronger position because of the financial resources that they would have had. And remember, they were given a lot of money from the Barbados lottery over the years, and they've been able to sustain Barbados cricket that way and have decent development structures in place. Again, if you ask me if Barbados Cricket Association has a finished product, I guess I'd be a little bit naive or silly to say they have a finished product. But when you compare it to what is out there in terms of the region, it is,
Mm.
I guess, far more advanced than many of the small islands at that. So I think that's probably why we've been able to produce so many international cricketers in comparison to the other islands in the Caribbean. We've got a bigger pool of cricketers as well, and we've got it used to be a lot stronger, but we've got a strongish club structure, which I
Mm.
think right now needs revamping. So that needs evolution. That needs to be evolved from where what it is now, because it has been
Right.
that way for a number of years. But again, these are all different conversations, which I think holistically, us as a region, we need to sit down and have to
Mm.
see how we can structure a more relevant system in comparison to what we would have had a couple of years back.
You've had leadership roles so young in your life. Is this something that even at 32 that you're looking forward and thinking maybe you can have an influence here, maybe you can help try to lead, the future stages of how cricket might look in your part of the world?
Look, it is a tough question for me. I think when you look at the governance structure of
Mm.
West Indies cricket, it is a tough one to break into, and it's a tough one to make change in. If you ask me if I have dedication and interest in helping to change Barbados and West Indies cricket, I would 100% say yes. If you ask me if I think it's feasible based on the structure that we have at present, I'm not quite sure I'll be convinced, but I think there
Mm.
are a lot of conversations to be had. And I think if you can have the right conversations with people actually listening and supporting what is actually coming out of the conversations, then we could probably start to see some progress in the right direction. But yeah, again, that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah, a lot of these conversations take a very long time.
Yeah.
That track about youth development and giving players responsibility, bringing players through. We talked about you taking over West Indies captaincy at such a young age, 2015 World Cup, and then Test captain by the end of that year. Do you think that did that make it more difficult for you to develop as a player, or like did it help you having that responsibility, or did it hold you back? How do you see it with a few years benefit of hindsight on what effect that had on a young Jason Holder?
Yeah, it's a two-edged sword for me, man. I think it's definitely developed me as the man I am today. It's made me so much stronger and so much more aware of what it entails to being a leader. I think when I took it, I had obviously led junior sides before, and I was always seen as a leader. And I felt as though I would have been not too dissimilar to junior squads that I would have led before. But captain of West Indies is a different beast. And again, if I knew now what I knew back then, 100% I wouldn't have taken it. If you ask me now, I think I'm in a way better position now at this point in my career to lead than I was back then. And look, I think I've been through my leadership point, particularly in international cricket. But I am really still open to leading other franchise stuff if I can, because I feel as though I can make a strong contribution when it comes to that. And I've been fortunate to win, be a winning captain in CPL before. Fortunate to win regional tournaments as a captain before. So I understand what it takes to win tournaments as a leader. But now more than ever, because of my experience, I think I would have a really good understanding. I feel as though I could win a few more or help win a few more trophies when it comes to any cricket, to be fair. But there's a lot to captain West Indies, and when you look at the politics of the captaincy, that's probably the most draining part.
Right.
And the part of it where if you're not really too um if you're not really too au fait and knowledgeable about how to deal with it, then it would chew you up and spit you back out so seriously. It's just one of those things where you got to be extremely strong. You got to know who's who, and then you also need to have strong support behind you. I had decent support around me when it comes to selectors in terms of Courtney Brown and Sir Clive Lloyd. You know, he was obviously the guy who was the chairman selectors when I became a captain. So I had really good support from those two particularly. But through the years where I would have experienced so many different changes, different changes in coach, I think in my captaincy tenure I probably had over 4 coaches. You know, which is a lot
Right.
in considering it was only like a 6 year period. So
Yeah.
it's a lot, man. A lot of changing dynamics, man. Look, if I go through a lot of things that I would have encountered, I think we could be here all night. But yeah, I think once you split the overall governance structure right now, West Indies cricket, and you could change it, I think that only then we can probably see some positive or consistent improvement in terms of the structures we have.
I'm guessing that it must be hard to keep track of where you are, given there are these big highs and big lows, right? Like before you take over the one-day captaincy, you've got Clive Lloyd backing you, saying this is the guy who should be West Indies captain. You know, he's the greatest West Indies captain. You've got the buzz of something like that. You've got, I remember that game at the 2015 World Cup when AB de Villiers was laying into you at the back end of an innings. You're 1 for 40 off 8 overs, and then 1 for 104 off 10. It was brutal, but it was brutal seeing, so watching you bowl and figuring out how you were going to try to respond to that. And you're leading the side as well. You've got that pressure. I mean, what is that like being, right under the microscope when things are really difficult out there on the field?
I think, funny enough, that's the strength of my character. I think I've been able to handle those tough situations better than most people, or being able to move on from them better than most people. And again, I think is having us that support and stability in terms of knowing that, look, you had a bad day, but it doesn't make you a bad cricketer, and you'll play the next game, and I think that's one of my biggest downfalls or most disappointing parts about my leadership, where I couldn't give guys that confidence to go and play the game they want to play and back them knowing that they can play 2 to 4 more test series. And that's something I really wanted to do, but because of the dynamics of selection, it was very, very difficult for me to do. I didn't have a vote when it came to selection. I was part of selection meetings, but if anything came down to vote where I couldn't vote. So
Right.
I mean, I was like my hands were tied behind my back to a
Mm,
certain extent. I was there in meetings to give my input, but and that's as far as it would go. So for me now to put my neck on the line to tell a player, well, look, I'm backing you. I give you 12 test matches. I give you whatever. I just couldn't do that because I didn't have the support behind me in terms of the structure to say, well, look, I can go and put my neck on the line for a player. And it felt silly in a way because at the end of the day, you were asked to take these guys out on the field and deliver. But it's like the guys can't see through me. And I think that's very important for any team or any leader, to
mm,
have that transparency where guys can see directly through. There's no gray area, there's no garbage. They can see straight through and trust that what they're seeing it is. And I think that's a struggle for any leader within the Caribbean. Man, there's just too many hands in the pot.
mm,
And in my opinion, too many irrelevant hands in the pot who don't really need to get involved in the cricket. I think once we have positions where we delegate people to run this particular area, then we give them the leeway to do their job. If they can't get the job done in an efficient way, which you're expected to do, then it's more likely
mm.
that you need to find, people who can do it.
Yeah, it's a really interesting observation. Like I remember noting that first series when you're captaining in tests, you've got Chris Gale can't play, Marlon Samuels can't play because they've got some argument with the West Indies Cricket Board, and so they're not available to you to be selected. You've got what you're talking about where you can't back players in. I mean, you must look at, say, the freedom that Ben Stokes has at the moment where he can say, I like this guy, I'll show up Bashir, he looks good. I'm going to get him into the side even though he's not being picked for his county. Jamie Smith doesn't keep wicket for his county, but that's fine. We'll have him keep wicket in this team, and gets to back players and gets to say, well, you're going to play for the next 12 months and we'll see if you can take the opportunity. You must be sort of envious of that, having that freedom, I guess, to really shape a team rather than just be one of many influences on a team.
Oh, without a doubt, man. And that's why these guys or that's why these systems have been so successful over a long period of time. Because when you look at it structurally, there's structures and systems in place that make sense that could be sustained over a long period of time. And I think if you can get West Indies cricket to that point,
Mm,
then I think you can have a lot more trust. At the moment, I don't think there's enough trust between players board or players and management to say, well, look, you can go and express yourself and play freely to know that you're being backed, and it doesn't matter if you get out. Like I hear McCollum, for example, in the media a lot, Stokes in the media a lot. Like they don't care about you getting out. You will get out,
mm,
But what we care about is you being, are you performing the role that we want you to perform?
mm,
You playing in the manner that we know we want you to play, or you know you can play, and you're just giving them 100% support behind that. Like selections like Bashir, for example, you just mentioned, it was purely down to seeing the guy, understanding his skill, and understanding that that's the skill set that we need in
mm,
our team. That's what we
mm,
want in our team. It doesn't matter about Leach, who may take more wickets than Bashir in county cricket, or Rehan Ahmed, for example, or Vardy, whoever it is, taking more wickets than Bashir. But when we look at Bashir, we think he's got the best attributes to fit into the role that we want
mm,
played in our test team to get the results that we're looking for. And look, the guy's played a handful of test matches and he's got 3 5 wicket hauls already in
mm.
both, subcontinent conditions and now in English conditions. So I think it's a hell of an effort for him. But
Right.
then it shows you the success of the system. That
Mm,
Bashir could easily go in the next couple of test matches and struggle. But the clarity that he has, or the clarity that English cricket has when it comes to the role of Bashir, is very, very clear. So
mm,
even if he struggles, he may be given a lot more leeway than another player in another system. And then over a period of time, through experience, he would get better. There's
mm,
no question about it. If he started this way and he's shown the promise that he's shown, there's only one thing that he can do. He can only get better.
mm,
But that's because of the structure and system that he has around him, and the backing that he's been given. At the moment, I don't think we can do that. I certainly, when I was captain, I couldn't. And I'm not sure if Craig, has that leeway as well too. And
mm,
again, like for me, it's hard to sit down and watch because you've been through it and you want the system to get better. So it shouldn't
mm.
be the same way it was when I was captain. Shouldn't be the same way it was when Chris was captain. And now Craig in 2024 still captain and it's still the same way. It
Right.
says something about the system.
Yeah. definitely. It brings to mind a player that you discovered, or that the team discovered in 2015-16 in Carlos Brathwaite. So you had that tough test captaincy debut in Sri Lanka, a couple of hard losses there. You had a very tough tour to Australia. That Hobart game that was, was freezing, and you couldn't pick your spinner because you couldn't turn the ball, and all the rest of it was so cold on that first morning. But coming through that test series in Australia, Carlos has a couple of eye-catching performances, and then you head off to that T20 World Cup, where, was it a relief for you at that point to be able to sit back, be part of the squad, but not have to lead that side? Darren Sammy's leading that side, and then obviously Carlos comes through with that moment in the final, and you get the euphoria of being part of that winning campaign. How did that campaign feel to you, being in the dressing room, but not having to actually lead?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fact that through all the trials and tribulations which the team had, we were able to still come through victorious. If you ask me if I would have loved to be more a part of it, of course. Yeah, I would have loved to play a better part in it in terms of playing, but I couldn't play. The team was that strong where I couldn't fit into the 11. And Carlos, on the back of his opportunities, and then I guess what he would have done in regional cricket, was able to get his opportunity. And kudos to him for grabbing it. And then, it is honestly single-handedly one of the best moments I've ever witnessed in a live cricket game. I've never seen anything like it. At the stage that he did it in, it's just remarkable, man. To hit 4 sixes when you need 19 off your lasso is just, it's just remarkable. And I guess nobody could have scripted it that way. But when you look at Carlos's career, for sure, I've always said that Carlos is one of those players who is a big day horse. He's one of those players who will be up for the moment. Again, when we look at, okay, I'll put Carlos into an English system, for example's sake. Carlos into an Australian system, for example's sake. I think Carlos would be way better in those systems, knowing that he's got the backing and leeway to express himself and be the Carlos Bradford that we know he can be, rather than him being a little stuck and pigeonholed into the West Indies system without giving that freedom or expression. And you all saw what he did in the World Cup, for example, the 2019 World Cup. We were being beaten by New Zealand, and out of nowhere he came and he started and he just hung around, got a few away. He got 100 in that game. We lost narrowly, narrowly at the end.
Yep.
So, you see that performance, you see his performance or his heroics in the 2016 World Cup, and you say, okay, why can't we get more of this player? And it's just things like that. I think we've, over the years of West Indies cricket, we've had too many cricketers who've shown glimpses of brilliance, but we haven't been able to get consistency out of not only those players, but every single body across the board. And again, I just feel as though sometimes it's like banging my head against a brick wall where you see the same things continuously happen over and over and over, and then we expect different results. So, look, I just think, and I'm trying, again, I don't want to sound critical or sound like if I'm really bashing cricket West Indies, but for me, I'm a part of the product. I am a part of the system. So if I'm a part of the system, it's more or less for me to try to help the system get better.
Right.
Even if I can't do it from personal performances or personal results, if I can help point or shape the system in the right direction, why not? I just don't want the system to be the same way it was when I came in, the same way it is when I'm leaving. I don't think any of the cricketers in the system want that. We just need to keep it moving. We need to get it better. We need to continuously look to improve so we can make improvements and, we can get better.
Does it sap some of the enjoyment out of it for you? Like the fact that you feel like this is just repeating?
It used to. It definitely used to. Look, I'll tell you the reason I still play international cricket. The reason I still play international cricket is because the group that we have here right now is easily one of the best groups I've been a part of. I really enjoy waking up every single morning excited to go into work with these fellas. And again, if the group wasn't as it is now, there's no way I'd be playing international cricket. I would have thrown in the towel and gone and played the leagues. A lot less stress on the body. Obviously more money, but it is more of a case where, look, I see a product that can be so good, and I want to be a part of that product. And I just feel as though I have so much more to give with my performances, and obviously help shaping our next generation to be better for the generation to come.
Yeah.
And that is ultimately the reason I still play international cricket.
Right. That's really interesting because it seemed like during that second test at Trent Bridge, you've got these guys who seem to be having such a good time out there, even when things were difficult. You know, Josh De Silva with Alec Athanase, the way they're chatting and joking at slip, Mikhail Louis, the running around in the field. Like there are these relatively inexperienced players who were relishing the fact that they were in this contest. That's how it looked as an outsider. So that's how it feels to you inside that circle as well.
Yeah, again, that's the way the game has to be played. That's how we traditionally played our cricket. We play our cricket with flair and enjoyment.
Mm.
We look at the celebration Mikel had in the first test match when he got the run out. Like,
Yeah.
and I always joke with him. I just say that's vintage Ambi. That's vintage Curly Ambrose. Like just running
Mm-hmm.
hands in the air. Like when you look at the celebrations, I remember seeing Courtney Walsh. Just it's just that's the way we came up playing. That's what I saw. That's what I fell in love with as a youngster watching cricket. So like my message to the group, and I'm one of those players in the dressing room that tries to keep everybody together, tries to keep the vibes up,
Right.
and that's all part of them feeling comfortable enough to express themselves. I can't give them the assurance that they can play 12 test matches, but at the end of the day, the one thing you can do is just not support to know that, look, I got your back. When
Mm.
we cross lane together. I'll do what I need to do in order to get you prepared for the next game. Like Mikel and I
Mm-hmm.
got him really close. First time I've ever met him, first time I've ever seen him is on this tour. Never played against him, never seen him back. But seeing how he goes about his business, listening to him, talking to him, and understanding who he is as a person, like he is ultimately one of my favorite people on this team. And it's just to see his
Mm.
belief, just to see his work ethic, just to hear him talk about how he works the game out, like is remarkable. I love Alec
Mm.
Ahmednaz. I think he's probably the best batsman when it comes to all round batsman in this team.
Right.
Just look at the talent that he has. Cabin Hodge. I've known Hodge all my life because we've played a lot of youth cricket together. People think that Hodge is
Mm.
very young. Hodge is 1 year younger than me. Hodge is 31 years old.
Yeah.
Now, he's
Totally.
been around for a long time, so it's great to see Hodgie now getting his opportunity after all this time
Mm.
and grabbing it. And not only grabbing it, but he's grabbing it in a way where he's separating himself from the rest. Like the 100 he got
Mm.
in Trent Bridge was awesome. It was absolutely
Mm.
phenomenal. You saw his celebration, and it's one of those the ones where like you 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 your hair and your arm raises when you see things like that because I know what he's been through.
Mm.
And he's had a tough time. He's been around the system for a long, long, long time, and to finally get an opportunity and now grabbing it, like kudos to him. But it's now
Yeah.
how can we produce more cabin Hodges where not necessarily may not break in early, but still keep them in the system to make the
Mm.
overall system strong, and
Right.
then have that balance where we got younger guys who might get into the international circuit a lot sooner, but we don't want to lose them. We want to make sure
Mm.
they stay with us, keeping them fit, keeping them healthy, keep developing them to make the overall product a lot better.
I've got a dressing room question for you. So going back to 2017, when you're building your test game, you've got that Pakistan series where they win at Kingston, you win in Bridgetown. You're making runs throughout the series. You take 3 in each innings at Bridgetown in that win. You have that last game coming down to the final day in Dominica. Shannon Gabriel playing that shot against Yasir Shah, chopping the ball back onto his stumps and like I really feel for him. People sort of treat that joke that moment as a joke, but I'm like, there's a human being at the middle of that. What do you do? How do you try to pick up that player in the dressing room after a moment like that?
Honestly, I try to remember what I told Shannon. I don't think we had much conversation after it because it was the last game of the series. We were leaving that was the fifth day as well. The
Mm.
next day we were back, we were gone. It's obviously one of those ones where you gotta allow the player to just deal with it in his way. You give him the support. You make him feel as though, look, you made a mistake, but that's not the end of the world. And I think what is important for us to understand is that we're still human beings, man. We all will make
Mm.
mistakes. He had a massive blunder. Like every single person in life goes through one of those moments where you have a massive blunder. One of those moments that is like, oh, you never thought you would have done it, but it was done. It happened. But it doesn't
Mm.
define you as a person. It doesn't define you as a cricketer. So what I remember what I said to the guys is like, all right, look, let that be a learning experience for everybody, because it makes no sense something like that happening and is repeated, or we find let something brand new happen, but know that that has happened. We've learned from that as a group, and we can move forward and have solutions when that similar situation arises again. I think what would be frustrating for me, I guess, and the people in the Caribbean, is to see that same scenario being posed again, and we do the same exact thing. And then that's where learning must take place. And I think that was the main message from me at that time. There's nothing you can do about it. It's done already. Like Shannon had batted beautifully up to that point, and he played a bad shot. He knew it was a bad shot, but another thing that you try not to do is judge. You try to understand what he was thinking, and he's number 11 batsman. And I think when we did sit down, we had a conversation around it. It was more or less he was saying like, look, he was crowded. There was every single player around. All 11, well, all 10 were around the bat, and I guess he felt the pressure. So like one of the things I think I said to him at that time was more or less like, if you find yourself back in that situation, like, it'll be a lot better if you play 4-1. Those 10 people around the back catch it, rather than you let go a wolf and you inside edge it onto the stump when we at the brink of saving the game. But look, it taught me a lot, particularly, and I'm sure he did learn a lot from it as well too, which was the main thing from those experiences. Like, you can't have all great experiences where you learn from. You got to learn
Sure.
from bad ones as well.
You go on to have the most incredible year after that. Your 2018 is magical. You've got what, 6 tests that year, average 38 with the bat, take 33 wickets at 12 with the ball, which is crazy. Like, it's the best bowling average for any bowler in like a century at that point across a full year. 9 wickets in Bridgetown against Sri Lanka, 11 in Kingston against Bangladesh, 5 for 56 against India in Hyderabad. You're in the Test team of the year with absolutely no doubt about it. And then January 2019, roll on and make that unbeaten double hundred against England, and just wreck them. Rack up 600 in that game. Like, it was an extraordinary run. What is what did that feel like? So, like, you've done that work, you've gone through some really difficult times leading that side, and then you've got this period where suddenly the wind's at your back, and everything just works for you across, like, all of that work pays off.
I was made to understand early in my career that everything has its time, and its time. Everybody's time is different. I remember when I first started playing my Test career, it was tough wicket wise, man, in terms of bowling. Like, I got 100 in my fourth Test match against England, so like people saw what I can do with the bat. But when it comes to my wickets over a period of time, like, they were dry. I think I got my first 5 wicket haul in Sharjah. I think that was in my 15th or 14th Test match, and it was under some pressure. So from then until now, it was like, from the start of my career till then, it was pretty slow in terms of wickets. And for me, people always ask me what did I do differently between that period and when everything started to happen for me. And I always tell people I did nothing differently. I did the same thing I was always doing. Nothing changed. The only thing that changed is like the results. And I always try to like tell people about the process. I don't really get too caught up with the results. I just think that timing is everything. So like, you go through phases, you go through lulls, you go through bright sparks, and it's more or less you understanding like, look, if this is not my time, this is not my day. Don't let it be a bad day, but just let it be a very a quiet day. But when you do have things in your favor, then you capitalize. Like, a double hundred and is one of the worst feelings I've ever had batting before, because I had just come off an injury. I didn't go to Bangladesh, which was meant to go. I did a month of rehab in England. And I remember coming back home, starting my prep for the series, and just felt awful, like awful. I got caught on ball in the first innings, off Jimmy, and yeah, in the second innings is more or less. I had a period where I had to get through in the evening, and never get. I got through the evening, I came back the next morning, and like things just started to flow. Like, and again, a perfect example, like the last Test match in Trent Bridge, first innings I was nowhere. Just didn't feel like if I had any rhythm. Just felt hustle, just felt out of sorts. And yeah, then I fought through. I just fought through and fought through and fought through. Then I started getting a little glimpse of feeling a little bit better, better understand of what's happening. And then, yeah, I get a ball and I nick off too. So then come in the second innings and everything started to flow. And I got 37 in no time. Then got up trying to, get down the next end. So like, and look, people came up to me, for example, and say, well, look, I should have just played it out and just batted for myself and got 50 or what's not. But it still doesn't really hold, like, it's a milestone, yes, but again, that was not my timing. I mean,
Mm.
I think I got so much out of the game, in terms of my personal well being, but I think me scoring 50 there or me not scoring 50 there is irrelevant to the cause, is irrelevant to the end result of the game. We got
Yeah.
beaten and we got bowled out in the session. So me scoring 50, what is that? Like, it's nothing to me.
Mm.
What would have been better for me is if I could have farm strike and, frustrate England a little bit more. Even if we still got beat, I would have felt a lot
Yeah.
better knowing that I could have conquered that situation a little bit better. Because I have done it in the past, but I mean, it's just one of those occasions where it didn't happen. So now I
Mm.
look ahead now to this test match, and I just feel like I'm more prepared for everything, than I ever have been in this last couple of weeks. Again, I haven't played test cricket now for a couple months to my last test series before this was against India last year. So it's like
Mm.
trying to build everything back up. And again, I think I've also got a new role as well, batting at six. Never batted at six. Playing out batters around the role. So I am very good mentally. I'm very, very confident that something big is around the corner. So it's more or less me
Mhm.
just sticking to my process as I always do. And when it's my time, capitalize.
The flip side of this series is that 2018 you beat England in the Caribbean, 2021 2 whenever it was, beat them again. England have won there once since 1968. Do, do you ever think about these things? Do you ever wonder, like, why is it that they struggle coming over there? Like, I know there was a big kind of grudge between West Indies and England teams in the 70s, but that's a long time ago. That doesn't seem like that could still be part of it. Do you ever ponder like why England find it so hard to win in the Caribbean?
I've never thought about it, to be honest. Since I've been playing for West Indies, my first series against England in the Caribbean, we drew in Antigua, lost in Grenada, and won in Barbados.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second series, we won. That was remarkable. That was when I got the double hundred, one in
Yep.
Barbados, one in Antigua, lost in St. Lucia. And then the series that we just had, where England came out, was a tough series. And again, it's so funny because I felt England kind of outplayed us in the series. We held on for a draw in Antigua. Well, we basically barely held on for the draw in Antigua, held on for a draw in Grenada, and then sorry in Barbados, held on for a draw in Barbados, and then we came in.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at those two test matches, England pretty much dominated the games.
Mm.
And then we ended up playing them in Grenada where we just got on top of them. And we won the test match and we ended up winning the test series. And then when I flip it now to the series that I've been a part of here in England, this is my third series in England. The first one was up and down. We lost miserably at Edgy. Came back strong in Leeds, where we had Shea scoring the twin hundreds.
Yep.
And then we lost at Lords. One of those games where it was topsy turvy as well. I think like 14 or 15 wickets fell on the first day. Second test series was a bit different with the COVID series. Started well, we won in Southampton and then lost two back to back
Mm-hmm.
in Manchester. And now we're here in this one where we've lost the first two and lost the series. So I'm again, I don't know. I don't know if his teams prefer to play at home, obviously, but it's just one of those ones where we've been able to continue the good things in the Caribbean, and
Mm.
I guess struggled a little bit more when we come to England. But I would just love us to win this last test match.
It's just a curious one because every time West Indies tour England, if you lose a test badly, there are all these articles in the English papers saying, basically obituaries for West Indies cricket. Won't be around for much longer, no good anymore, that sort of thing. And I think you'd be forgiven for saying, well, fuck you, come and beat us at our patch first, and then write us off. You know, it seems they seem to forget about that part of the world.
Yeah, I mean, like it doesn't bother me, man. I understand the English media. The English media, Australian media are very brutal, and they paint the exact picture they want to paint just to try to get into your minds. But more or less, look, England has nothing on us. Yeah, they beat us at home. We beat them at home. It is what it is. I don't think that when you look at the current Test Championship, we're ahead of them. So, like
Mm-hmm.
again, like at the end of the day, like the results side of things are there. The numbers are there to prove it. So there's nothing for me to get into. If English media and English cricketers don't feel as though we should be playing Test cricket, well, that's their business. And then, as you said, beat us at home. You know, and
Mm.
it doesn't really bother me, man. To be honest, like they're entitled to think the way they want to think, and we're entitled to feel the way we want to feel. But again, when you look at the results over the years, I don't think England has anything on us when it comes to our rivalry between them or in Test cricket.
It's interesting. So you led that COVID tour, which was so strange and difficult, and then you give up the captaincy in 2021. I remember you playing Sri Lanka just after that. You took 5 for in the first innings, and there's a clip that we've enjoyed very much on this show where when Dhananjaya De Silva's batting, and there's Dhananjaya, just trying to distract him, trying to get in his head. Did you feel like you had more license to have a bit more fun at that point, that you put the captaincy behind you and you could just enjoy playing more?
That was my poker face, man. I was actually very upset and very, very pissed off because I didn't give up the captaincy, by the way.
Right,
Yeah, I was stripped of the captaincy, so it's a
right.
bit different. And I choose not to go into it. I've never really spoken about it, but
Okay.
it was more or less me trying to find ways to deal with it. That was a tough series for me, and I don't understand how I did so well in this series because yeah, mentally I was way way off, man. I was just so frustrated with how the whole thing had transpired.
Right.
Yeah, and I lost a lot of respect for people within. Honestly, lost relationships with people that were involved, and I
Mm.
didn't speak to some of the people involved in it for a very long time who were actively involved in the team. So it was a bit awkward. But I've grown and I've moved on. Since then I've had a conversation with the then coach, Phil Simmons. Yeah, like we move on. I didn't. And again, I always tell people I had no like bad blood with the decision. Like, yeah, I mean,
Mm.
it's not my cricket. You could decide what you want and how you want to move forward with the cricket, but it's just a weird way in which you do it. And the way they did it was just distasteful and just disrespectful in my eyes. So yeah, I didn't really handle that well. So yeah, for me, I was just like, uh, I was just like, F it, like that's just this just the way I want to go about it. You know, like
Mm.
like I just had fun. I had a good series. Got five. Got a half century or 2 half centuries in the series or whatnot. Had a good T20
Mm.
series against Sri Lanka as well to win last in Antigua. I think the whole series played in Antigua, and it's just more or less me enjoying myself at that point. But transitioning back in to a normal player, it was hard, man. It is absolutely very, very hard. It's like suddenly you understand how people really viewed you, because I think people really like my relationships changed based on my posts. So you kind of see who was true and who wasn't, because people
Mm.
definitely changed the way they spoke to me and dealt with me after I lost the captaincy, rather than when I had
Right.
it. So I mean, it was what it was, but yeah, I don't miss it.
You don't miss it, but it hurt. Like you were hurting
Yeah, at that point, it
at
did
that
hurt.
time.
It did definitely hurt, man, and it took me a while to get over. Took me a really
Mm.
big long time to get over, and then the change in administration was a tough transition as well too, because I was almost being kind of pigeonholed with the past administrators and seen
Mm.
as their boy, and this new crop of administrators. I don't think it sat well with them knowing that I was one of them, which I think was one of the reasons why they wanted to move on from me or moved on from me.
Right.
Um, yeah, again, it was just weird, man, and just one of those ones where, yeah, I that's another political instance which kind of really showed me a lot too. But again, you live and you learn, and yeah, I don't hold any
Mm.
grudges. I don't know if the product has gotten any better since things have changed, but I just pray and hope that it would get better, for the sake of West Indies cricket.
Did you reach a point where you had to make a conscious decision that I'm going to put this behind me? Was that something that you needed to do for yourself, or did it happen organically?
I just got to a point where like I need to understand like why I wanted to play for West Indies. And yeah, for me, I love the test group. Always been a massive fan of the test group. And again, those guys in the test team, are driving force for me keep like, continue to play for West Indies.
Mm.
I love the T20 team, T20 cricket as well too. And obviously, that's the format that I am still very keen on playing with around the world. So I think that
Mm.
that's basically the secondary format for me. But if I sit and I were and think about people who in positions to make those decisions. I think it's just too much energy that I could probably just use up in different ways. So I
Mm.
just kind of just try to move on and just get on with what I have to do in life.
The thing of enjoying that test side so much and being part of it, is that related to you enjoying playing county cricket for Worcestershire? Because you were saying how much you wanted to come back and play another season there, how much you enjoyed being part of that red ball cricket experience as well.
Playing at Northants in 2019 was one of the best experiences I had, and I was caught. Oh, I was. I do have a photo with David Ripley. Well, with me signing my life away to Northants in 2019. When I signed with Worcester, I got that message from Rips, and Rips sent me the message, and I just died laughing. And I really wanted to go back to Northants as well too, even although things had changed drastically in terms of their personnel and management. But it wasn't feasible at the time. They already had their overseas players. And then this opportunity came at Worcester. And when I first bought Alan Richardson, it's like, poor, I knew Alan Richardson over 12 years. Like, it was just so easy and he was just so chilled. And then actually getting into the dressing room at Worcester was easily one of the most enjoyable experiences I've had playing cricket. Honest to God,
Mm.
like, and I haven't felt that love, and I made mention of it. I haven't felt that love in a dressing room in ages. It's a
Mm.
different kind of love. It's a different kind of brotherhood. It's a different kind of bond that those guys had. And again, it made me want to get in and be around the boys. It made
Mm.
me want to look forward to the next day. And just coming and spend time with good people and have a good time doing it. And look, I owe a lot to Worcester for recalibrating my my mental when it comes to
Mm.
my future in cricket. They've done a lot, man, and I can't thank them enough. And I would love to go back if the opportunity arises to
Mm.
play a bit more. I actually just saw today that Leachy's going to retire at the end of this season, and it's sad. It's so sad because I know the individual. First time meeting him this year, and he's just a hell of a person, man, and he's got so much to offer. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody at Lychee goes straight into coaching or straight into the administrative side of things when it comes to Worcester because he's so smart and he's so knowledgeable and he's lived it. So I just want to personally wish him well. And then hopefully I could get back at Worcester and, be a part of the dressing room again.
And I guess in much more sad way, there's a bond there as well that you lost a teammate together. That group, you've got that experience that you've gone through together during that season.
Yeah, it was remarkable, man. Yeah, he, again, it's obviously something you would never see coming. Such a young guy, and then spending time with him, like even the last test match. So Josh had played with us in the game against Notts. So Josh sat in front of me. Ethan Brooks was to his left. Kashif Ali was to my right, and I was sitting onto Kashi's left, and we were all in the back part of the dressing room, and we sat there. And in the last test match, I went to the guys who were sat behind there, and I was saying, well, "This is where Josh sat down," and I just kind of like wanted to just feel his energy. So I sat in his seat for a little bit. So it's just like things like that where it just shows you perspective of life because you just never know what's going to happen tomorrow. There's nothing guaranteed.
Mm.
I played golf with him 2 days before he passed, and like you just got to feel for his family, and it's just hard to put into words. But again, one of the most remarkable things seeing the whole thing transpire was how brilliantly everybody came together and supported one another. It
Mm.
was so hard. I remember the first day that we came back together after it happened. It was sensitive because everybody was like on edge as to how to move, and then obviously some certain people took it really tough, who were really close to him, and he just had to keep getting around him. And the amount of messages that flood through the chat, checking in on people and making sure that people stuck together was remarkable. I've never seen anything like it, man.
Mm.
And that's the essence of a real strong team. And yeah, I think those boys would continue to get better. I just hope that we could pull a rabbit out of the hat and stay in Division One. I know the points are really close at the bottom. We checked them a couple of days ago, but yeah, I think they deserve to be in Division One. And and I believe that they'll pull it out of their heart and make sure that they stay up.
Yeah, it's something. It's like really beautiful and really sad at the same time.
Yeah, definitely a learning experience, man.
Where do you like? You're saying that nothing's sure, nothing's confirmed. What are your vague ideas of the future look like? You're on 160 Test wickets, 159 ODIs, 60 in T20s. Are you thinking like might county cricket be something that continues for a while? How long do you like? Do you think is West Indies cricket kind of a series by series proposition at this point, depending how you feel about it? Like you say, you're 32, you've got plenty of time ahead of you where you could play franchise cricket. You've got a lot of options, basically. What do you want to achieve, or is it really just about finding the most enjoyable way to have a cricketing career at this point?
Yeah, I think I don't want to play any cricket without enjoying it. I don't want to be in any environment without enjoying it. So I think that's the first thing that has to be the first box that has to be ticked. But again, me mentioning everything I mentioned to you before, it'd be unbecoming of me not to see it through and stick with the group. You know, as long as I can stick with the group, I will stick with the group. But again, like if I could sit and have meetings and discussions around what is expected, like how are they looking to move forward, that'd be great. Because then it would give me a better understanding of how to plot my future plans as well. The difficulty I find in the Caribbean is planning. You know, there's
Mm,
no real plans in place to say, well, these, and it makes it more difficult now that I haven't taken the central contract.
mm,
So now that I'm a bit more freelance, it's harder. Again, I haven't had a conversation, even although I've played all the formats as well. I haven't had any conversation around workloads, planning, management, these
mm.
kind of things. So it'd be good to have those conversations and good to see or get understanding of what they're thinking, so that I can then keep the communication ways open and see how best I can continue to contribute to West Indies
Mm.
cricket. But again, I don't want to be in any environment where I'm not enjoying it, and I don't think it makes sense for me to be in any environment no not enjoying it at this age.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty good ethos to live by. You've been very generous with your time during the test series, and a great conversationalist to talk to, Jason Holder. Thanks very much for joining the final word.
Thanks a lot for having me, man. Appreciate it.